So my name is Guang Yang. I'm from Microsoft, and today I'm going to talk about how to build modern applications with Azure App Service. So I was in the booth yesterday in the Microsoft Azure booth, and a lot of people come in and, hey, what is Azure? So it sort of struck me to say maybe in this audience in the Bay Area, Azure is not as visible, as popular as other cloud providers. So just a quick kind of survey. How many of you know what is Azure? Okay, so most of you, in this session knows about it, so that's cool. How many of you actually use it? All right, so we have 3 people use it, we have 4 people use it, but we have a bunch of people here heard about it as well. So that's good. So today, I'm going to talk about a big service we have in Azure, which we call the Azure App Service. So we launched it March 24th, so it's probably a month and a half ago. And today I'm going to give you a little bit introduction of what it can do, what can help you with scenario support, and I'm going to give you a live demo. All right, so let's get started. So what is Azure App Service? So the idea of an Azure App Service is to enable you to create modern applications like web applications and mobile applications, and also hosting APIs for any platform. So our goal is to say, hey, no matter what kind of technology you like, what kind of skill you know, we want to support you. And we want to do it in a very fast fashion, in a very productivity fashion. So a lot of the values and features we deliver, it's tuned into this kind of mindset. So deploy applications backends in seconds. We allow you to build applications engage with your iOS device, Android device, and Windows device. This is not all about Microsoft Play, like Windows Play anymore. We can help you to automate some business process with a very simple workflow designer. So this is a part of the new offering we have in Azure App Service. And finally, we have a lot of connectors help you to connect to popular SaaS applications out there. For example, Twitter, Office 365, Salesforce, and also, of course, this is Twilio Signal. So we have a Twilio partnership here as well. So I will show you later. And it also helps you to connect to on-premises applications. A lot of the enterprises today, they have on-premises data, they have on-premises applications. So we make it really easy for you to connect to your on-premises application out there. So what are the different things within Azure App Service? So we sort of sector it into 4 different kinds of applications we're thinking about. The first one is a web application, so it's very simple. It's like, hey, you want to build a website. This is the best platform for you to build it. The second one is a mobile application. So if you want to build an iOS app, you want to build an Android app, Windows Phone app, Stored app, Windows Universal app, we want you to be on this backend. Logic app, so this is a new offering. This is the simple workflow I just mentioned. So we have the visual designer. And finally, API app. So API app helps you to build APIs, to host APIs, and help you to expose APIs to outside the world. It also has a very, very tight integration with Logic app altogether. So just to drill in a little bit of the 4 different app types, what kind of capabilities we provide you. So Azure Web App, previously we called it Azure Website. It's been GA'd for a long time. So we have great SLA over there, a lot of big customers, both enterprise and internet companies. So full capability, so you don't need to only lock yourself into .NET anymore. So the platform play we're doing is that you can do .NET, Node.js, Java, PHP, and Python. So we're very open. So we have web jobs, support long-running tasks. So I have this gentleman here to say, hey, I'm building some Windows services, maybe demand services in a VM today, or I'm doing some background jobs in a cloud service today. Is there a better way? Is there a lighter way to do it? Web jobs is actually a great option over there. And we have great tooling support from Visual Studio. We can do remote debugging, actually. You can have your code running in the cloud, and you can attach a debugger from Visual Studio to actually debug your live code if you want. So that's really powerful. We have continuous integration with popular source controls. So you can connect your web app with GitHub, Bitbucket, Visual Studio Online. So then you can say, whenever I make some changes in a particular branch, maybe a production branch or a staging branch, I'm going to have an auto deployment. You can build up test scripts over there as well. So you can say, I'm going to run these scripts first, make sure everything's OK, and then I'm going to do a deployment. So really flexible and powerful. We have auto load and auto scale, geo disaster recovery. So this means that you can set a policy to say, hey, if my CPU of my website is actually past, let's say 70%, or my memory past 70%, I'm going to scale from 1 instance to 2 instance to 3 instance. And when the peak actually goes down, it will automatically scale back. So it will help you save money. You don't need to manage all the nasty scaling problem anymore. It's all taken away from you. Virtual network and hybrid connectivity. So these capabilities help you to connect to your on-premises data or application. And hybrid connection is really interesting in a way that we implemented in a way that you have a relay in the cloud. So then what you have in your Azure web app is talking to the relay. What you have on premises is also talking to the relay. So the good thing about this is that you don't need to open a firewall port on your on-premises machine. So like in an enterprise scenario, if you just want to do some quick demonstration, you want to do prototyping, you want to do some small project, you don't need to call your IT guy to say, hey, I need to open up a port and a firewall, and then you're gonna ask you why is this secure, whatever. So you don't need to do that anymore because it's not an inbound call. Everything is outbound from your local machine perspective. That was a pretty smart thing we do. And finally, so we have slots in Azure Web App, which help you to do staging development. So the idea is that a lot of times you want to make some small changes to your website, to your application, and then you want to. Oh, that's over there. All right. So a lot of times when you deploy your application, your code, you don't want to say I want to go production right away, right? You want to have a staging environment to test it thoroughly, and then you just want to say, hey, let's flip it. Let's have the staging environment go production. So we gave you exactly this capability. So with one click, you can create a staging environment for your website, and you can say, let's have all my code over there running with a new version with some changes. And when you test it thoroughly, you can then flip it. So your current production slot become the staging slot, and the staging slot become the production slot. So it's super easy to do. And actually, to make it better, we also support a scenario which we call a test in production. So you can have as many slots as you want. So for example, you can say, I want to have 5 slots. And you can say that 4 of the slots is running production code. 1 of them is running some testing code, like flighting code. And you can tweak the traffic to say, let's have 99% of the traffic goes to these 4 slots, and only have 1% of the traffic go to the 5th. So in this way, you can do a very simple test in production scenario. And then when you see that this one slot with 1% traffic is good, is okay, then you can then set policy to say, I'm going to graduate into 10%, I'm going to graduate to 20%, and eventually graduate into 100%. So it's a really easy way for you to do test in production and also control your environment. So I spent a lot of time speaking about web app. This is because web app is our foundation in the whole app service offering. So the next thing is mobile app. So mobile app is previously we called it mobile services. It helps to build mobile applications, both the client side and the backend side. Now with mobile app, so we did a V2 of this feature, of this offering, and then we built it on top of web app. So the nice thing about this is that everything I just said about web app, we inherited all the capabilities in mobile app automatically from a backend perspective, right? So slots, continuous integration, all this greatness, we just get it for web app automatically for you. And we don't, from our perspective, we don't need to do a lot of engineering work to support them either. So awesome. So that's why you see like web jobs and CI, auto scale, all these things are happening here as well, virtual network, stuff like that. And on the client side, we have iOS SDK, we have Android SDK, we have Xamarin SDK, we have a great relationship with Xamarin folks over there. We have the Windows Store SDK. We're working on the Cordova SDK right now. So we're really trying to cover all the popular client, like mobile client technologies. And we gave you capabilities like identity support. So you can do Active Directory login. You can do social login if you want. it gave you offline data sync. So if your client side goes down from network perspective, it will store some data inside your device. And then when it's come back online, it will automatically push it to your backend. So you have your client side and the backend in sync. So all these things are kind of a compound combination between the client side and the backend. So Logic App, so this is something, so this is a new offering we have, so this is for easy automation. So you can think of this as like a similar offering like IFT or Azuka. The idea is that you can go to a web browser, you can just bring up a web browser and it will give you a beautiful canvas. You see a bunch of what we call connectors. To say, okay, this one can talk to Salesforce, this can talk to Twilio, this guy can talk to Twitter. So you can do a lot of interesting things with it without writing any code. So it gave you IntelliSense over there. It will flow the data through. And it's long running, so you can set up recurring. You can say, you can say it actually runs every minute, for example. And you can also add triggers to it. So then you can have scenarios where you say, hey, so I'm going to monitor Twitter for a keyword that's a product of my company. And if I see some bad tweets, I'm going to send a test message to myself. So you can build this kind of work process without writing code, and it's going to be long running over there in the cloud. And you can have tracing, stuff like that. You can also customize the workflow by bringing your own code. So you can say if there are some capabilities that's missing from the out-of-box offering, you can just build that capability by yourself. And then finally, so the API app. So API app is also built on top of web app. The idea is that we want to inherit all the goodness of web app as of today, same as mobile, but we want to provide capabilities that is optimized for APIs. For example, we want to provide a better authentication, like AAD authentication, Active Directory authentication, social authentication, custom authentication if you just have a database with username and password that you maintain. So a lot of things around authentication. So we have an ecosystem of API which we allow you to reuse APIs from other people, and you can also publish your own APIs over there in a very easy, very simple fashion. So you can share your API and share your capability with other developers. In the future, we're also going to add monetization capability on top of that, so you can sell your API as well. And the last one is pretty cool, which is all the APIs that we provide, and we recommend developers to provide. We recommend you to describe your API using Swagger 2.0 specification. So, as Microsoft, we don't want to invent yet another new standard out there to describe your API anymore. So Swagger is a pretty good one, is a pretty independent one, so we're embracing Swagger here to let you describe your API. And on top of that, we actually build a tool to generate client SDK if you have Swagger describing your API. And we're generating the SDK in .NET, in JavaScript, in Java. And we're working on generating it for Python, for Ruby, for PHP, C++. We're working on generating for mobile like Android and iOS as well. And the whole project on the CodeGen side is also open source, so we have it on GitHub. So the idea is that if you like it, you can help us to build a flavor. So you say, hey, I want to have a Go generator. Sure, help us to build a Go generator. I want to have an Erlang generator. Help us to build an Erlang generator. So it's a very open ecosystem. So these are kind of the out-of-box API apps we have in our gallery today. So you can see that actually cover a pretty wide spectrum. So Twilio, we have Slack, Facebook, Dropbox. So that's for connectivity. That's for social and productivity. We have SAP. We have SharePoint, Office 365, Salesforce. These are more for business. Enterprise scenarios, and we have pure integration scenario like, hey, I have a FTP server, but I don't want to talk to it using FTP anymore. I want to use HTTP. Everybody likes HTTP. All right, so we have a connector to connect to FTP, POP3. We actually convert them into HTTP protocol. So you can just build everything, connect everything through the HTTP pipeline. All right, so demo. So I've been talking almost like 15 minutes, so I'm going to use the last 15 minutes for demos. So this is the kind of application I want to demo to you guys. So here's the scenario. So imagine that you are a company, you provide cable services, right? So you go to houses and say, hey, do you have, like, I'm going to install cable for you so you can watch TV, things like that. So we have two websites in this scenario. So one is a customer website, so they can just go there and say, hey, I want to install cable, or I have a problem. I need you to help me fix it. So it's a very open website. There's no authentication at all. And then there is an employee website, which is an internal one. That is, the employee of this company will see all the appointments and will schedule them. They will find the field engineer to see, hey, I may need to go there and fix the problem for my customer. So that's an internal website. And it will show that how to use a logic app to actually moving data around. And we have the mobile app, which is on iPad, to demonstrate to say, if there's a field engineer, how he can just bring the device into the field and then do some make some fixes for the customer, and then just click to say things are done. And finally, there are a bunch of connectors, API apps we're using here. So Twilio for sending text message. We have Office 365, Salesforce, and SQL. So I'm going to show you how this works, and I'm going to talk through the scenarios. OK, so that's flip to. So this is so that's flip to the demo. So this is the open website we just talked about. So this is the first website. So it's written in ASP.NET MVC, very simple one, talking to a SQL database. You can host it locally in your local server, or you can host it in Azure using web app. So that actually the code is exactly the same. So you don't need to change anything. And also just remember that you can also write everything in JavaScript, in Node.js if you want. You can do Java. So it's not really just about .NET. I'm just showing this, because we implement the demo this way. So I can say, OK, I'm going to choose a time slot, maybe Sunday 1:30. That's a good time. So my name. Oh, by the way, I think if you guys have computer open, you can use this as well. So I'm going to put my name, my email address, my phone number. I'm going to say cannot watch HBO. Right? Everybody likes HBO. So I'm going to say create. And this will actually create a record in my SQL server. So in this case, my SQL server is running in Azure. So I create a record in Azure. Now then, what's going to happen is that very soon I'm gonna get a test message. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to this guy. So this is a logic app. So let's see what we have in logic app here. Right. So in logic app, so logic app is in the Azure portal right now. So I got a test message here. Hopefully you heard it. So what happens in logic app is that, and by the way, this is within the Azure portal today. So what happens in this logic app is that I am actually adding a SQL connector to look at what's happening in my SQL database. So it's running every minute. So you can see here that's saying it is recurringly running every minute. And I'm looking at a certain table to say, hey, if there is a new record coming, I'm going to trigger this process. And then what it does is saying that it's actually creating a contact in Salesforce using a Salesforce connector. And it will use Twilio connector to send a test message to the customer, in this case, me. And then finally, it's going to create a case in Salesforce in Salesforce as well. So I have my contact, I have my customer created in Salesforce, and then I have a case created for this particular appointment. So I'm going to go back and just show you the full flow here. So it's very simple, just 4 cards here, and there is no code. It's a very kind of a reliable process you can run. It's pretty cheap. It's very easy to implement. And the idea here is to say, hey, if you have an existing application, but you want to leverage like things like Salesforce or Office 365, you don't need to migrate your whole application just for it. Just write some process, and then you can have your data port over, right? And in the future, if you want, you can say, all right, now it's time for me to talk to Salesforce directly. That is fine. So we gave you all the options you want. So this is on the Logic App side, and all these cards and also things you see on the list here. So these are API apps we provide out of the box. And of course, you can build your own API apps, and you can use it here. You can use it in your code. So the next thing I want to do is that I want to switch to this browser, because I'm going to use a different login. And I'm going to go to this website, and I have my little demo script here. So I'm going to another website. This is again running in Azure as an Azure website. So I'm going to use a different login. So this Carla, so he's kind of the service advisor in my demo company. So I'm going to log in here. And here what's happening is that it's actually using Azure Active Directory login. So the scenario we're trying to demonstrate here is that, hey, you have your company, right? You're probably using Office 365. You're probably using SharePoint Exchange for your backend, for your back service support. So you probably have Active Directory. So we can build a very simple app to enable Active Directory login. And if you're not using that, say you're using Google, that's fine. So it's equally simple for you to build an application to say, I want to use Google login. So it's the same. So now you see that here it's already getting my, is this the guy? So it's already getting my request. Now actually what's happening here is that it's actually calling into Salesforce using the same Salesforce connector and getting my data. So that's why I have a login to Salesforce button here. So let's try to log in. So I'm logging into Salesforce. Here, go. So it's asked me for a code. So I got it here already. So log in, and it will redirect back to this. So I'm just showing you this login flow here. So I can take this guy, I can say next, and I'm going to select a field engineer here, so Bob Johnson, and I say next, and I'm going to pick a date. So let's just pick a date. So I remember is 24th, and I think it's 1:30, but 1:30 is already taken, so I'm going to take something else. So I'm going to say, okay, we probably can get you by 3. Doing this, click next, and click finish. So what's happening in the back end is actually talking to Salesforce to get all the information, and then it's also talking to Office 365 to also make a event, make a kind of appointment in Bob Johnson's calendar. So then, like, you open up your app or you go to your Office 365 UI, like the portal, you can see that, okay, there is there is appointment for Bob. And also, as the admin here, Carla, I can see everybody's calendar all in one, so I can see that one is available, one is not available. So the data is really in Office 365 in this case, but we're using the Office 365 connector to actually querying the data over into this application. Now this part of the demo is done. Now I'm going to bring up my Mac. So actually this morning when I was coming here, so some of the guys here were like, oh, like you're using a Windows and everybody else is using a Mac. No, yeah, I mean I'm from Microsoft, but hey, I have a Mac as well. So I'm going to show you something on a Mac, just to complete this demo. All right. You guys seeing it? This is not useful anymore. So this is the iOS app, and you can see that I'm not really a mobile developer yet. It looks crappy. So if I click refresh here, so I should see some more. So I see that there is another appointment here coming. So that is the appointment I just created on this Windows machine, right? So I can pick one. So I've been doing a lot last night, just doing the rehearsal. But I can pick one, and I can say, OK, you know what? I'm going to probably just repair the cable outlet and then fix the cable wear. It's probably going to do it. So I'm doing all this, and I'm saying, OK, mark this as complete, because I tested it already. So it's marking this as complete. Now, see that here we're actually emulating to say this device is not online yet. So like it doesn't have network. So if I switch this back, then in the background, it should start to refresh. It start to push the data into the backend. Now you see that on the left side, it automatically refreshes to say, all right, so I've connected to my backend. So it's safe to kind of update here. So I have my data I have the data in the mobile client and in the mobile backend in sync. Now, what's happening is that it actually, so we'll actually talk to the mobile backend, putting the data back, and the mobile backend will go to Salesforce using the same Salesforce connector to close the case we just created. So if we go to Salesforce, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Just a second. So you can see it well. So if I go to here, you can see that, so let's just go to cases. So this is the case we just created, right? So cannot watch HBO. So this is the case here, details. And in the feed, is this the one? It's probably another one. I have too many cannot watch HBO. Oh, no, this is the one. So in here, what's supposed to happen is that it will close the case here. So this, what is that? Sorry?
You did the ESPN.
Oh, I did an ESPN one? Oh, really? OK, so let's look at the ESPN one then. This is the ESPN one. All right, so it's closed, right? So in here, it says it's closed. It says closed by Bob Johnson. So this is sort of the kind of an end-to-end demo, and I don't have time to show you the code, but I do have the code here. So I have the mobile code all written in Xamarin, and over here on this machine, so I have all the code written in C#. So I actually open up in Sublime Text, just say, hey, I'm actually embracing the non-Microsoft technology as well. So I have about like 1.5 minutes. So really the takeaway for you guys is that Azure provide a lot of capabilities. So a lot of things I haven't really talked about today, virtual machine, for example. And hey, we have Windows and Linux virtual machine. Actually, we used to call ourselves Windows Azure. And people were like, oh, Windows Azure, maybe you don't support Linux. So we dropped Windows even in the brand. We just called it Azure. I made it very clear to say, we support Windows, we support Linux, we support all the good technologies out there. So we have the virtual machine layer. We have a data layer, so we have storage, SQL Server, data warehouse. We have caching. And a caching is actually using Redis cache. It's not a cache cooked up by Microsoft itself. So we're also embracing the open source community. So these are on kind of the infrastructure layer. And what I'm showing today as Azure App Service is more on a platform as a service layer. So it's taking away a lot of the complexity of running our own VM, managing all the life cycles, how to do scaling, how to patch. So we extract this all the way, and we gave you a higher level. So analogy we're usually saying is that running VM infrastructure is like buying a house. It's awesome, but you need to take care of everything. But using web app service is like in a hotel. So we have people taking care of everything for you. So I'm going to close with that.